on this edition of the Self-Publishing Show.
The second I activated all of this advertising, marketing, Facebook ads, everything that he talks about in his course, Facebook pixels, all of that, I went to 4 figures a month in 5 weeks, and then 5 figures a month, nonstop since.
Publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers. No more barriers. No one standing between you and your readers. Do you want to make a living from your writing? Join indie bestseller Mark Dawson and first-time author James Blatch as they shine a light on the secrets of self-publishing success. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Yeah, hello and welcome. It is the Self-Publishing Show with James Blatch.
And Mark Dawson on a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday, which is unusual for us. So this is going to be a special week. We are opening our course, Advertising for Authors, Mark Dawson's Advertising for Authors, the acclaimed, I was going to say award-winning. We should have won an award by now for that. We have to find an award we can win so we can say award-winning course. But what we thought we'd do as a sort of tie-in, because not everybody's going to be investing in the course at this stage in their career, but what we can do is we can put together a bunch of material overviews of the main 3 platforms when it comes to advertising, for paid advertising for authors. So that's what we're going to do in these special 3 episodes this week, on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. And the Wednesday today, we're going to start with Facebook ads. Tomorrow we will look at BookBub ads. And then on Friday, we'll look at Amazon ads, but also we're going to take a dive into your invasion of Germany, Mark.
Right, yes. Yeah, it's quite useful actually. I was trying to think. I've been thinking for ages how it's possible to demonstrate what you can do with ads, and I'm not always the best example for that because I've spent a lot on ads over the last few years. I sell a lot of books organically now. I've got a big mailing list, which doesn't necessarily put me in the same position as an author starting out or an author at an earlier point of their career. So it's sometimes quite hard to pick out the things that could relate across the board. But then the more I thought about it, I came up with actually a pretty good way to do this. So I've just launched, we'll go into lots more detail on Friday, but I just launched a trilogy of translated books in Germany. And over there, no one knows who I am. I don't have a mailing list. I don't have a big Facebook page. I don't even speak German. So, and I'm not selling books. So I am effectively a brand new author, or was a brand new author a couple of months ago in Germany. And what I've done is to use Facebook and Amazon ads chiefly to start selling books. And things are going really well now. I think I sold about 300 euros worth of books on just three titles in Germany yesterday. And I'm still well in the red because the translations were expensive, and we'll get into that as well. But I think there's a very clear path now to clearing that debt and becoming profitable quite quickly based on the ads that I'm running.
Big in Germany.
I'm big in Germany, absolutely.
Good. Okay, well that's exciting, and a lot more detail on that. I know people who are a bit further along with their careers will be interested in that move, because nobody likes to leave any money on the table. And the idea that just because you haven't done something means that you're not earning some money in that area is going to be niggling away at some people. However, now I've done the interviews. We actually brought in 3 experts this week. One of them sitting in front of you, which is Mark.
Oh, me, yes.
I'm including you as an expert. You're going to be looking at Amazon ads. We have brought in experts for those 2 other fields, which is Facebook ads and BookBub ads. So tomorrow we're going to be hearing from none other than Dave Cochran, who is a bit like, I think you've described him as the shop steward of the indie world in the past, but someone who was right there at the beginning, urging indies on and giving them the know-how. And his book, Let's Get Digital, and has been going great guns since. Has a book on BookBub ads. It's quite difficult to say. And so we're going to have a good interview with Dave tomorrow. And today we have Shayne Silvers. Now, Shayne is somebody who didn't really know one end of a Facebook ad from another a couple of years ago, was introduced to them through the Ads for Authors course by Mark, and quickly became a master, a Jedi Knight of the Facebook ads world. He is $1 million year income man now. He's a fantastic writer, of course, but it's Facebook ads that's driven his career. So he's the person to speak to about that. That's who we are going to talk to today. Now, 2 quick things before we get into the interview with Shayne. First of all, Patreon supporters, we are going to welcome our new Patreon supporters. We have a clutch of them on Friday's episode as normal. And also there's 3 episodes this week, but don't panic. You will not be charged for 3. We're going to give 2 of them away for free, and the charge, the $1 to $3, will be on Friday. You can join our legion of Patreon supporters and be a part of the Self-Publishing Show if you go to patreon.com/self-publishing show. We love your support. It means a lot to us.
One thing we should add before we go on, James, for Patreon, and also anyone who's in the courses, you get into the SPFU, Self-Publishing Formula at University. And one of the things that you get as a member of SPFU is a fairly regular. We try and do the monthly webinar. So last month we had Gwen Hernandez, who did Scrivener, which has gone down really well. Lots of people attended that one. And the next one we've got is with the guys behind BookBrush, which is a very useful tool. I met them in Florida last year at NINC, and they've got a very useful tool, kind of a bit like Canva, but it is designed specifically to help authors create ad images for their ads. Could be Facebook ads, BookBub ads, lots of different preset dimensions on those images to make it really easy with graphics. You can pull in your own graphics, whatever you want. It's a really neat piece of software. So we've got them coming on to talk about how to use BookBrush to put your images together. And I'm not entirely sure when that is. Do you know, James? Doesn't really matter. A couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'll dig out the date for after Shayne's interview, and we'll get that up. That is coming up. But make sure you are a Patreon supporter if you're not enrolled in one of the courses. Okay, right. Let's talk to Shayne Silvers. So Shayne is going great guns with Facebook ads, and I've tried to pitch the interviews. I've done the interviews. I've tried to pitch them so that they're not simply advanced explanations of the sort of niches in Facebook ads now. It is a complex platform. So we start with the basics and talk about how the campaigns can be used, what strategy you should use. Because let's face it, these are platforms where you can lose a lot of money very quickly, as well as make money if you get it right. And getting it right does take some application. So let's talk to Shayne Silvers, and Mark and I will be back.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Shayne Silvers.
Yes, how are you?
Good. You look confused and terrified for a moment there, but I think you were just want a curious look at your computer.
Yeah, I'm clicking through my Facebook ads, trying to find one that might be a decent example. So how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really good. How are you? So we bumped into each other last autumn, I think I say autumn, it's like 90 degrees. It doesn't feel like autumn for us in England, but in the tropics. And we were excited to hear about the success you've had with Facebook ads in particular, but also with a lot of Mark's teachings. And you've become a superstar. How does that feel?
Well, I always thought it was, even if it wasn't justified. So,
so now you're intolerable.
No, it's pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Now my ego is too big now. So, but no, it's a blast. I'm having a really good time writing a ton of books. And now that I always knew how to write the book, but now that Mark's famous saying, just need to learn how to sell it. So, his course taught me that.
Great. Okay. Well, look, we are going to learn about Facebook ads with you. So first of all, how important are Facebook ads to you?
They're vital. I think you've heard my story a little bit, but for anyone who wants a recap, basically I had written my first book in 2012, kind of sat around for 2-3 years, hoping for it to become an instant success. It never did. And then I kind of ran across Mark Dawson, and he was talking about advertising and marketing and really treating it like a business. And I used to be a banker, or I was a banker at the time. And so I understood that perfectly. And for whatever reason, I had never connected the two thought processes together, the creative and the analytical. And so I started applying all of that, having the website, the email subscribers, really just, having readers as customers, not just entertainment. And learning how to do Facebook advertising was what really got me in front of those people. Because that same book that, maybe did $50 to $100 a month at best for 3 years, started doing 4 figures, then 5 figures a month. And so not just that book, but, second and third book as well. But I started hitting 5 figures a month within probably 2-3 months of applying Mark's lessons. It's night and day.
Yeah, that was a big jump for you, and Facebook ads pivotal for you then. And how do Facebook ads feature for you now? Because there's definitely been, it seems to me, since I started getting involved with Mark a couple of years ago, Facebook ads really were the driver for most authors. I would say now half of them say it's Amazon ads, half of them say Facebook ads still important to them. Where do Facebook ads rank?
Yeah, I'd say ranking wise, probably they're 40% of it. Maybe Amazon is 60. It's pretty close. I'm still trying to learn Amazon, and they're not as sophisticated with feedback and what you're actually getting for your money and how the system works and reporting. So Facebook has a leg up on them there, but Amazon has all the customers. So I'd say it's probably leaning more towards Amazon, but Facebook is huge for me. Huge for me. Whenever I'm launching a new book, I post it in my group. I start kind of building buzz for it that way, and then I'll send out an email to notify everybody that a book's coming out, and then I'll retarget those people that I sent to the email. 2 days later, maybe 1 day later, just depending, with a Facebook ad, so that anyone who maybe saw the email but didn't have time to click, maybe they were driving at work in a meeting, they say, "Oh yeah, Shayne's got a new book out," and so they click the link and download it that way. And so Facebook ads are huge. Even if, a lot of people are saying that cost is going up, I mean, that's just business. Marketing is just like any other, or marketing aspects apply to every business. And just because we had a heyday, a couple of years ago, and then over the last couple of years doesn't mean that, typical market corrections aren't going to hit us too. So.
Yeah. Okay, so you gave us a little bit of the good stuff there, of some of the process that you use, and I guess that's what we're going to be covering in this interview. It's a complex platform, as you say, Facebook. It does put some people off. The ads manager is
yes,
a lot of aspects to it. It's not necessarily the friendliest dashboard you'll ever work with, but it's powerful. Now we haven't got time to teach the ins and outs of that, but what we can do, I think, is talk about those principles and some of the processes that you apply that work, where the magic is and what's working now. So that was an interesting little moment just then when you talked about retargeting people, something that you can do in Facebook. So do you want to perhaps start with that, the kind of flow of
course,
the 7 touches? Is it the 7 touches of advertising?
Exactly. That's exactly the point. Yep, exactly the point. So basically, whenever I've got a new book coming out, whether it's on pre-order, however long the pre-order is, I'll send out a pre-order email just to kind of build the buzz, and maybe there's a discount of $1 or so for the pre-order. And then what I'll start doing is I'll start having engagement posts on Facebook, and it'll have the link for the book and everything in there, artwork, some clever one-liners, just some copy, and I'll start getting that for the pre-orders. But then once it comes launch day, I'll send out a launch email to let everyone know, hey, it's live. Go check it out right now. And then what I'll do is probably the next morning, depending on how I want to structure the tail, because I've found that it's better to have, instead of just a ton of sales in a short period, to kind of spread them out a little bit. It just looks better to Amazon, to the rankings, at least in my opinion, it has. And so what I'll do is I'll space that out a little bit, but within a couple of days, I'll have a Facebook ad that will basically target all of my email subscribers only. And I'll send that to them for maybe, I don't know, 30, 50, $100 a day. Just depends on what my marketing cap is for that book. And I'll hit those people. And then maybe 3-4 days when I feel like it's hit all of them already, which is probably 50 or 75,000 people. Then I'll do a lookalike audience based on that, or I'll make sure it stops serving the email people. You can go into the ads manager and pick who to include or who to exclude. And so I'll go ahead and do engagers on my website, which could be anyone from pixel to they clicked on a link to they thumbs up one of your ads at one point. Maybe they've gone to your website a couple times. I'll pick all of those people, anyone who's ever had any interaction with me whatsoever, with my books and any kind of social media presence I have online. And then I'll exclude anyone who's on my email list. That way they're not getting hit twice. But the cool thing about that is all of that engagement that you got from the email subscribers carries through. And so you can make your ad look a lot more interactive. Like it's not just a brand new ad. It's got, 500 likes or 3,000 likes or 500 comments or whatever. And so when new people see it, they say, well, okay, this guy's obviously not just a new author. He's on book 11 and there's a ton of engagement on this ad, so I'll check it out.
And you mentioned your mailing list there. So your mailing list is obviously quite substantial, Shayne.
Yeah.
How many?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on that. I don't think I compete with Mark yet. I think he's in six figures right now. We'll see, but yeah, it's pretty healthy. I've got a free novella. It's kind of a prequel story to my Nate Temple series, and I've got that available on my website, on Twitter, on Facebook, really anywhere you go. You can get a free novella. So I think it's 27,000 words. So it's just a short story, short, fun, punchy. And you can kind of test out my writing that way. And then if you like that, obviously you go into the whole series.
I was going to talk about the mailing list. Obviously, is important in your strategy now. Now, what I'm assuming that Facebook ads were important for you in building your mailing list in the first place.
Yeah, to some extent, it was initially. So what I did is I probably spent. I mean, I started out with $5 a day. No matter what you're doing, back then when I was, obviously not making any money off of my books, I was terrified to spend $5 a day.
Well, because it was your pension money.
Yeah, it was $150 a month.
If I remember rightly, it was your wife's savings money for your retirement. You didn't even tell her.
Yep. No, I did not tell her. So she's fine now.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, I cashed in my 401k and basically invested that into my business. And so $5 a day was a lot. I have daycare, I've got diapers, I've got all these things that we've got to pay for. And so $150 was huge. And so I limited it to that. And I think initially all of it was for email subscribers. I was doing sign up Facebook ads. And so I went ahead and did that for probably 3, 4, 5 months. Over the last year or so, I really haven't done any Facebook ads for subscriptions. I am thinking about turning it back on though, and giving it a go, seeing what happens. Because the thing about Facebook is, as the algorithms change, as their website changes, as they shift focus to a new product line, everything, obviously the house of cards falls down, and there's sometimes opportunities in that. And so a lot of times I've found that whenever a big change is going on at Facebook and everyone's sitting there whining and complaining, in all the author groups, they're saying, oh, it's not working anymore. It's not this, or it's too expensive now. I'll go in there and start finding different things to do with Facebook ads. Since everyone's complaining about this one specific way, maybe it's time to try email subscribers again, or maybe it's time to try lookalike audiences, or video ads, or something different, carousel ads, any of the 500 different options they have. And a lot of times I find opportunity in that. And so when everyone else is sitting there focusing on the negative, I'm trying to find a positive.
Great. That's definitely the right attitude.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got an idea of you using Facebook ads initially, giving away a book, signing people up onto your mailing list, using them in conjunction with your email list and your emails to get your audience warm, and then retarget the warm ones who've interacted one way and another. And we can see how that each time you refine and optimize your targeting, your conversions should, in theory, go up at that stage, and the advertising becomes cheaper compared to an bottom line is a better profit. So that's a good overview.
Yes.
Now, not everybody will know all the ins and outs of Facebook advertising. So perhaps you could talk to me, Shayne, about the different options you get. What different types of ads do you have available to you?
Yeah. I mean, there's more than I even know of. It seems like every single day there's a new one popping up. There's carousel ads where you can basically have 3, 4, 5, I think up to 10 images, kind of shuffling through. And you'll probably see that a lot on, I've personally seen it a lot on furniture companies or poster, companies that sell artwork for your home, because I would be looking for artwork online, and then all of a sudden my Facebook ads start kicking in with those kind of products. And so a lot of times I'll see, Facebook ad pop up for Wayfair, which is furniture and art and all kind of home decor. And you can just sit there and kind of swipe through the different couches or bookshelves or pieces of art that they have. You can do that with your books too. Now, how you want to apply that, it's really up to you. They give you kind of the foundation. Facebook gives you the foundation to really see how you want to treat that. If you want to treat each image as a different type of ad, where maybe one's a sign up, one is this. I think you can kind of mix and match it a little bit. I'm only just now looking into it, so I haven't played with that too much. I can't speak on how profitable or how beneficial it is, but it is something that I want to check out. And if you have more than a couple books, in your series or whatever you're advertising could be pretty neat, because you can basically have all your covers right there. You can advertise that way. There's also video. I know a lot of people get concerned about video because they don't have the money to go hire, a film production crew. But there's a lot of apps on there, on your phone, on the internet, on your computer, that you can download, probably built into your computer a lot of times, where you can turn still images into video. And there's one, I'm not getting paid to endorse this, but there's one that's called Werble, Werble. And what's cool about that is you can take a still image and you can make the fire in your character's hand move, or the waterfall behind him, look like it's actually in motion. And you can make a 5, 10, or 3-second video right there, and that works. Use that for Facebook ad, and that does great because video performs really well.
So typically a video ad you would use for a book sales advert? Yeah.
So historically, yes, I would use it for a new launch or something like that. But I am thinking about doing it as, I think that's the best way to get a subscriber. And I've seen Mark do this a little bit recently, where you're actually just talking to the reader for a minute.
Yeah.
Telling them about your books. And I think that's a very personable way to do that. I do that via every other avenue. I really interact with my readers and engage with them. If they comment on my ad, I'm always trying to follow them and reply and, thank them and ask them a question. So it's not just at the end of the conversation, I'll try to keep it going. But Mark doing that with the video ad is pretty neat. I actually like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
So, but that's the point, is there's so many different ways to mix and match all the different tools available to you. And if you can find a way that works with your genre, with your type of readers, romance is going to be a lot different than thriller, for example, how you choose to market that. But I think the tools are out there. You just need to try to think creatively and think as a reader, what would you like to see, not as an author.
Yeah, I like those talking head ads as well, apart from the fact that I have to edit them for Mark whenever he records them, so he sends me all the bits. Okay, so that's carousel and video ads you've mentioned. Now, the big change that happened after I started working alongside Mark, and he was my guru, my Yoda in this field, is the advent of the lead gen ad, which just explain before and after why that was such an important innovation.
It was a big jump because it was one less step for the person to take. They're already trusting Facebook. They're already interacting with Facebook. And so they just click a button, and then all of a sudden Facebook does all the verification. Facebook knows who they are. Facebook knows who you are. And they're just a good middleman. And so all of a sudden the reader has access to whatever freebie it is or subscription service you have on email. And it's just one less step, because every step you ask them to take, you're going to lose a big percentage of followers.
Yeah, these are these small margins, which I can't still believe that some of the companies I interact with online don't understand. You get put through so many hoops in some big companies, big multi-billion-dollar turnover companies. You just think, who on earth has designed this process? Because I'm giving up now. So whereas when you're selling low value items that cost $3 or $4, that smooth, that lack of resistance, that making it as easy as possible to click to get the email address to get the free book.
Exactly.
As you say, each little thing you put in the way gets drops that conversion percentage down. Okay, so that's lead gen ads. We've talked about carousel and video ads, and you talked, because you misheard me, about the kind of traditional ad before lead gen, which I guess in those days when someone clicked learn more or get the free book or whatever your call to action was in the ad, got taken to a landing page that you'd created.
Yes. Yep. They would go straight to my website. I had a specific page for them to go to. It's got, a couple review copies right there. It's got the average number of stars on Amazon. It's got a box set, so they can choose to do that instead after they download the free book. It's basically just got a whole bunch of interaction options for them, but they do get the free book regardless. They just type in their email address. Yeah.
There's a possibility they might also buy something at that stage. Would you like fries with that option? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the goal.
And if you get that right, you can end up almost building your list for free.
Yes, because it pays for whatever you spent.
Yeah, which obviously you've got to get a lot right for this to
Yeah.
work. So when you're
Mhm.
working with Facebook ads, and I'm going to take you back in a moment, we'll talk in a bit more detail for people who do know about all this sort of fundamentals of it. I'd like to grill you a bit more about the process of retargeting and how that works. But
Mhm.
just as kind of intermediary step, um, what are the key elements to a successful ad in your view?
Yeah, so there's different ways that you can approach it. In my research, talking to other authors who have a really good grip on Facebook ads, or they've had really good success with ads, or they have maybe a marketing background in just advertising in general, there's a couple different ways you can choose to advertise your product. You can do it based on customers say, which just means it's kind of a third party verification. Like, hey, I'm advertising to you, yes, but 500 other people say this, or I have 1,500 other 5-star reviews on Amazon say this, and so you can use you can use your Amazon reviews um, as kind of a verification of that you're legitimate, you're authentic, and you're good quality. And so a lot of people have been doing that recently, where they'll say, the best book I've ever read, or best urban fantasy I've ever read, or insert genre here, whatever. They'll just take a review from Amazon, put it in the ad, and then they'll have an image or a book cover or whatever, and that's it. Some people go the route of, which is more what I do. My books are really humorous and comical. They're very serious as well, but I balance out the fighting and the violence and romance, and I kind of balance all that out with humor. So if it's getting a little too dark or too serious, my characters will say something funny or witty, and so I use copy a lot of times where it's just quick one-liners, like with my Nate Temple series. It says, when shifter dragons invade St. Louis, Nate Temple gives them the cure for erectile dysfunction.
I like it.
And so that it's just a play on words, so that when you're reading it, you say, okay, this guy's obviously got a sense of humor, but it's an urban fantasy book. I'll check that out. So you can do copy. One of the other ways that people like to do is a real, like a book description, an Amazon blurb. They'll do kind of a big series, or sorry, a big 2-paragraph story, or even a sample in some cases of their book. Maybe a witty scene where the two characters are talking to each other or fighting or something. They'll actually have a book description. And then I think maybe the fourth way would be when you focus on the character itself, not the story. And so you would talk about your character and why your reader should be interested in that character. Not necessarily about the book itself, but you know, Nate Temple has a troubled past, or you really get into the character side to really try to get their emotions activated, so that if they're not interested in the story and the action and the plot, maybe they'll read it because the character sounds really cool, or maybe they'll read it because the copy sounds really cool. There's a lot of different ways, but those are kind of the four main approaches that I've used and that I've seen that do well.
And what about the imagery? We do see a lot of people will simply stick their book cover up, but I'm assuming you're going to advocate having dedicated Facebook imagery, ad imagery.
Yeah. So what I'll do, everyone says never use your book cover. I've never split tested that to see if there's any validity to it. I will say if you're going after a cold audience, just having a book cover probably isn't the best way to go. But there's a lot of websites that authors use that'll have kind of generic Shutterstock, just maybe it's a girl in a field holding out her hand and it looks like magic or something. And they'll use that. I've never really gone that route. What I always do is I have my cover designer. We spend a lot of time on the art. So my books aren't just typically a character and, just a real generic background. I really have like an art piece is what I try to go for. And so when they make the cover, um, the background is almost just as actionable just as active as the character. And so I'll have the designer make a Facebook banner, Facebook ad sized image of my book. It just won't say the book title or anything on there. There's no text. It'll just be the artwork. And that's worked really well for me. I know everyone says never use your book cover, never use your book cover. in a way, I guess I'm not, but I kind of am. I'm using the art from it, but I'm not using the actual book cover.
So that's a good tip for people just starting out, is when you do get a cover made, at the same time when you're doing the deal, when you're sort of agreeing how much that's all going to cost, get that same imagery in different formats available to you, clean, without title, without blurb and stuff, and you can drop that stuff. It's fairly easy. Most people can
Exactly.
do the basis of that in Photoshop. Get that done at the same time.
Yeah, because most of the time you're doing that anyway, because you're trying to get a Facebook banner image or a Twitter banner image or an email header or any other number of things. So they already have the artwork. They just need to change the format.
Yeah, exactly. So it's easy enough if you ask in advance. It's more difficult afterwards. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now the one area of what makes a good ad that we haven't discussed yet is targeting. Now I do want to talk to you about the more complex, more advanced retargeting process you're using at the moment. But in terms of its basics, running an ad to attract new subscribers to your email list, for instance, how do you go about targeting?
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, you have to make sure you have a Facebook pixel activated, so that the ad is talking to your website basically, and kind of connecting everyone that has hit that website at some point, whether on their own or through an ad. A lot of times it'll fire the Facebook pixel if you make those two softwares talk to each other well enough. So basically, if you have the Facebook pixel set up and you've got so that Facebook can pull the information to build an audience of people that have engaged with your website, your Facebook page, your ads, really whatever, any aspect of you on Facebook as an author, then you can build a list based on that. And that's called an engagers list, I believe, where you go into the Facebook ads manager or the ads manager, but then you click the little toggle option to go to audiences. And I'm always building new audiences. Every month I'm building a couple new audiences just to see if anything's changed, or maybe to tweak a little bit, maybe go to a certain country or something like that. But basically, if you get an ad audience of everyone that's engaged with your website in some way, then you can do lookalike audiences based on that. And so that's where you'd want to go ahead and try and get new readers to get your subscription ad served to, so you can get their email address and then get their free book. But go ahead.
And this sounds scarier than it is, really. Getting a pixel.
Sounded like you were going to interrupt.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Oh, I was ready to ask my next question, but it sounds scarier than it is, really. Getting your pixel on a website is simply something that you can say to whoever looks after your website, I need this pixel. And I think Facebook is a bit like AdWords, probably makes it really easy.
Yep.
You can automate an email that goes to your webmaster, and that'll have all the instructions of exactly where the pixel needs to go. And from that moment, then it starts making a note of everybody who visits. So it's less complex than it might sound, although none of this is simplicity itself, we should say. So let's talk about targeting raw, if you like. So without using your pixel, without using a sort of visitors, how do you go about that?
Yeah, so basically I think there's software that does it now. But in the past, it might be better to do it by hand with everyone trying to use the same software. But basically, I'll go through and I'll poll my readers. So I'll do a poll and say, hey, how'd you hear about me? What other authors do you like? What other book series do you like? Put it in the comments, and I'll pick 5 people to get a free book or something. You'll basically crowdsource your fans, is what I do. And that way you can find a bunch of people that already buy your stuff and have chosen to buy your stuff from an ad or whatever. So you'll know where they came from, but you'll also know what else they're interested in. And a lot of times you'd be surprised, because those things, those authors, those series, those book characters, whatever it is, they might not have popped up in your Amazon also bots. But you see that 500 out of 1,000 people have also read that series when you do the poll. You say, okay, well, just because Amazon hasn't caught it, maybe it's because of the discrepancy. If let's say a book series has been out for 30 years and it's kind of a cult classic, and all of those people just happen to like your stuff too, well, that book might have sold so many copies on Amazon that they don't even connect that it's an also bought of yours. And so there's a lot of ways that you can kind of go about finding similar products to yours, and then you target that on Facebook if you can. Facebook is kind of a pain on who you can target and how, but I always try. It's always better to try. Or you can type in a group as well. I can't remember exactly where it is in the ads manager. I think it's, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a way in the ads manager to go in there and type in certain interests, and it'll tell you everyone who likes those interests also likes, these are the top 10 Facebook pages that they like. These are the top 10 groups that they like. These are the top 10 company likes or author likes that they have. And you can kind of backtrack your way into your target audience. So if you're trying to find a certain author that's not popping up on Facebook, you can try this backwards way to say, okay, well, people who also like fantasy also like this. And you can kind of build audiences cold that way. That's typically what I'm trying to do, is to just find your own also bots, I guess. But there's software that can do it now that can kind of rip through Amazon, the top 100 authors or the top 100 authors like you. There's websites like Yasiv, YASIV, as in Victor. You can go in there and you can either type your book or a competitor's book, and it'll show you anyone who likes that also likes this, or it'll basically word cloud it, where it shows a ton of other books and authors that connect to that product. And that's another way to kind of plug that information into Facebook and see if you can build an audience that way. There's a million ways to do it.
Yeah.
But I typically do it hands-on, because I try to think of it like a reader, not just a transaction. And so there might have been a ton of people who bought book one in that series that you're targeting, but the readers hated it. So maybe you don't want to target that. And so I try to just approach it as a reader would want to see, so that I can give them what I would want to see and avoid all the pitfalls that would turn me off.
To put it at its basics, the reason this is so important is because once you have the name of other authors, other books that your readers are interested in, however surprising that is to you, you can then target the fans of that book, target the fans of that author. Exactly. And that should be a halfway warm audience to you. So, there is lots of help in that field now, of discovering who's linked, and there's a lot of data scraping that goes on, and people can take advantage of those services. Okay, so to get us into the last few fences of this jog around the Facebook course, love my metaphor, we are going to talk about retargeting, which you mentioned at the beginning and you've alluded to a couple of times. This is slightly more advanced stuff, but retargeting just from your pixel is one thing. But I think anybody, once you put an advert out there, whichever advert it is, whichever format, whichever way it works, anyone who has a brushing interest in it, who's watched it on their timeline for a period of time, who's clicked it to learn it a little bit more, even if they don't give their email address away, you start to build up a repository. You don't see the email addresses. Facebook just has them as a kind of audience there, and you can start to use them. So how effectively are you using that aspect of the platform?
As much as they'll let me. I use that every time there's a new book launch. I always target, they call them engagers. At least that's what I call them. Anyone who's interacted with you via Facebook in some manner or even indirect way. If they've liked, maybe watched 3 seconds of your video, maybe commented, any kind of interaction on your Facebook page or your website, you can build an audience that way. And I always target those people when it comes to a new launch. And I oftentimes will target them for a few days about the new launch, say, hey, hope you're all caught up on Nate Temple, but check this out. Book 11 just came out or is coming out. And then oftentimes I'll try to do the same thing with Instagram too. You can get people who have interacted with your page via Instagram, or maybe they've watched 3 or 4 seconds of one of your video ads. I'll try to get anyone I can. And then maybe a few days later after launch, 3-4 days after launch, I might say, hey, thank you so much. Book 11 just hit number 24 on Amazon. And then you put a picture, in the ad or something like that. Thank you so much for your support. Hope you guys are enjoying it. And that's it. And that way they'll kind of get, okay, he's not just pestering me about it. There's a lot of people that like this book. Maybe I'll go check it out. And it's all about, like you said, 7 touches of marketing.
Yeah.
Just making sure they see it a million different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a very important concept to understand that people make a purchase after a journey. I'm using the journey word again. It's very rare someone sees one poster, one billboard, and makes a snap decision they're going to do something. It's
exactly
visiting someone's house and seeing they've got one, popping up on TV, a radio advert. It starts to sink in. They're warmed up, and then they get that crucial moment, the 7th, on average, apparently, touch is the moment they make that decision.
Hopefully sooner.
Yeah,
hopefully you can get it sooner.
Would be nice sooner. And I did a little bit of work on this one. I was looking at adapting some of our material for people outside the book industry and trying to explain how much of an advantage this is in modern business, that people don't quite realize that the Wonder Bra advert, which is on the subway, 50% of the people who walk past it don't wear bras. Of the 50% that do wear bras, well, actually more than 50%, because you've got age range. They probably, I don't know, I'm getting into difficult territory here, but 35 to 45 might be the age range, and within that, a subsection of people who might be interested in that particular product, which is a little bit out there. Suddenly, you realise that less than 1% of the people who walk past that billboard are target audience. Well, on Facebook, we have this magical ability to put our adverts in front of people who we know are interested in the area that we're trying to sell something. And that is a massive advantage. And that's why there's been this explosion. A lot of people don't understand it, and a lot of people are scared of it. And there's all sorts of controversies about politicians using it. But as far as I can see, politicians are free to use this targeting and target people who are interested in their messaging as much as we are. But we're still pioneers, I think. Are we not at this stage?
Yeah, I think so. But the good thing about this, for anyone who's kind of new or kind of testing the water with their feet, I had no technical background. I have no IT experience. I don't know how to do any of that, and I didn't when I started. But all you do is just go to YouTube. I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world these days to get an answer to your question. If you don't know how to do a Facebook pixel, Google it. And YouTube will probably have a video walking you through it step by step, or Facebook will have a video, or really anything you want to know how to do. It's a couple keystrokes away.
Or a very well structured online course, for instance, might be available.
Absolutely, absolutely. But what I'm getting at, and Mark uses that too, is I was trying to Google all this, and I would find little snippets here and there. And then I finally realized, okay, this is just overwhelming, or it's like a job. I mean, I'm working 50, 60 hours a week. And that's when I found Mark's course. And so he had everything kind of neat in one place. He's reputable. He's done it. That's the biggest part. It's not one of the courses by the people that have maybe sold, $5,000 in books last year. It's someone who's obviously doing extremely well. And that was important to me, because I tried a couple courses from people who seem like they're hot stuff and they know everyone and they're friends with everybody. And then you look at their book ranking and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. With Mark, it was different. And so his course literally changed everything for me. I mean, you have to do the work still, but all the answers are right there.
And we should say that you weren't making money, as you said, in your early days, and you are now a 6-figure income a month guy.
Yes.
And that's because you understood the platform. Somebody taught it to you. You understood it. So when we're talking about Facebook ads in particular, that's how important they are.
Yeah, it's vital. I mean, advertising is life to any business. And especially with how many products are out there, you need to stand out. You need to write a good product. We're assuming that part's already done, but you need to know how to get in front of the right people. Because like I said, the biggest thing that people should take home from my story is that book 1 in my series, Obsidian Sun, it was rejected over 100 times by New York agents, literary agents. I put it on Amazon. It sold nothing. I think life to date, before I started Mark's course, it was $400 maybe over like 3 years, $400 or $500. The second I activated all of this advertising, marketing, Facebook ads, everything that he talks about in his course, Facebook pixels, all of that, I went to 4 figures a month in 5 weeks, and then 5 figures a month, nonstop since.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
But it's the same product. That's kind of my point, is that if I was just kind of being objective about it, I would say, well, I'm obviously a terrible writer. No one likes my stuff, or I can't do it. But putting the right marketing in place took that same product from 400 over 3 years to 5 figures in a month, every month. And so it just depends on getting your product in front of the right people.
Well, you want to put a PDF together of your gross earnings and send it to each of the 100 people who rejected you in New York.
Yeah. So well, a couple have reached out to me asking if we'd like to work together.
I bet they have. Good. Okay. Well, look, it's an inspiring story, Shayne, and I'm pleased that presumably your 401k is now filled up again.
Yes. Yeah. It's better than it was.
Good. Because I'd hate to think you had neglected that bit of it. Brilliant. Okay, look, that's been a fantastic overview. I mean, it is really an overview, but it's given us the understanding of the fundamentals and what's working at the moment in Facebook ads, and we're very grateful for your time. So, Shayne, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And whenever you guys have questions, the best part is that you can go into the group after you sign up for the course and take all the lessons to heart and apply them to your work. If you're running any questions or have problems, he's got 2-3 groups for the self-publishing formula Facebook ads that you can go check out and ask other authors, and maybe 50 of them have had the same exact problem as you have. It's a quick fix that you don't know about. So it's not just the product that's great, it's also the customer service, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, and you'll be, we should say, if people listen to the interview, you're regularly in the group, so people can even reach out direct should they want to.
Yeah, of course.
Superb. Shayne, thank you so much indeed. We're going to let you get on with your busy life, and we're really grateful that you joined us.
It was great talking to you, James.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Okay, that was Shayne Silvers, and we got some examples from Shayne of, we didn't get some examples. Mark, you've been digging out some examples of some of those really successful Facebook ads, so I think we'll have a little chat about that. So if I get one of those up now, and so this is a Shayne Silvers sponsored ad, and you can see at the beginning that it does denote it's an ad, same as Twitter and the other platforms, by saying sponsored. You've got a grabby image there of a moody looking man in an armchair with some ravens perched around him. So Mark, tell me why this ad is successful.
Well, first of all, we should say if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to look at this on the screen now. If you're listening on the podcast, then we'll include them in the show notes so you can have a look at those and as we talk about them. So yeah, I mean, the reason Shayne is very good at these ads, and he has really excellent covers. And as he said in the podcast, he gets his designer to allow him to he asks his designer to pull an image from the cover that he can use in those ad copies. And Shayne did make reference to the kind of the prevailing wisdom that suggests that you shouldn't use a book cover in your ad. And I would stand by that. But what Shayne is doing here, this isn't really his book cover. What we mean by don't use a book cover is don't use an image that looks like a book. So it doesn't have the font, the characters on it, the title, his name, any of the text. It doesn't look like a book. It's just a slice from the artwork. And his artwork is always striking. So it's quite colorful. I mean, it looks very, very professional. Really, really nicely done. And it stands out in the newsfeed. Funny story, before I realized I didn't even know that Shayne had taken the course, and I started to see these ads for his Nate Temple books in my newsfeed. So probably not the best targeting, not necessarily Shayne's fault on Facebook, but I'm not really into buying urban fantasy, but they were really strong ads. I would have been tempted to buy them. In fact, I did buy one after seeing the ad, and the images are great. The copy is excellent. He writes very, very funny copy. So what we've got here, as he mentioned in the podcast, when shifter dragons invade St. Louis, Nate Temple gives them a cure for reptile dysfunction. So it's quite funny. It gives you an idea of what his writing's like. And then what readers are saying, his foul-mouthed unicorn murders rainbows, 5 stars. All the humor of Deadpool, more magic than Harry Potter. But that's a really great review quote that really sums up what his books are like. So, and then dropping down beneath the image itself, you've got the Learn More button that would take you directly to Amazon. And then his headline copy, free with Kindle Unlimited. So he's really going after Kindle Unlimited page reads there. And then the descriptive text beneath that, anti-hero wizard with daddy issues. So very, very effective ad. I really like that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what strikes me straight away when I see a lot of Facebook ads that get posted into our group is how few words there are. You often see people post their Facebook ads in and there's a big clump of description at the top there, but Shayne's a good example there. So let's have a look at another one of his. So the next one, again, as Mark says, you'll get these in the show notes. selfpublishingshow.com/ads now, ADSNOW, and we'll package up all the examples. We'll talk about anything else that comes up. We're going to include it in that PDF. I love the way we make things up as we go along, but it is all good in the end, isn't it?
Very professional.
By the time it goes out. Yeah. So ad number 2, I recognize this image actually, and that this looks like it's a video ad, Mark.
So yes, the second ad it looks like a video. What it is he mentioned this in the interview. It's taken an image from his cover, and he's run it through a little software application that animates some of the features. So without playing this, we've just got this as a still. I think if we hit play there, that the lightning and the fire coming out of his character's hands would crackle and would be animated. And again, that really stands out in the newsfeed. It's something that looks a bit unusual. They're still not that common, those kinds of ads. And what you want is what Facebook describes as thumb stopping content. So it wants you to stop the scrolling down through the newsfeed to actually look at the image, and then if the image is good enough to be tempted to read the text, and if that's good enough to hit the call to action button and then go to Amazon. At that stage, hopefully you're into a buying mood rather than a Facebook browsing mood, and you can get started with what Nate has been advertising.
Yeah, and again, short and pithy copy.
Yes, my name is Nate Temple. I ride a foul-mouthed unicorn, drink with Achilles, and I'm pals with the 4 horsemen. I've even cow-tipped the Minotaur. So yeah, he's used that copy a lot, and it's obviously been effective for him. And it's really good.
And it does a really great job of saying what the books are like in a very short period of time, which is a really key part of an effective ad. You don't want to confound expectations. Okay, and the final one then we're looking at is a female protagonist. This time it's also one of these moving ads. Some sort of angel.
Yes, an angel character. So we've got a colourful image with lightning firing out of this winged woman's fingertips, and the copy there again. People say Callie Penrose is kissed by heaven, whatever the hell that means. So a nice punchy first line playing on words. This kick-ass heroine, so he's setting up what you can expect in terms of the action quotient within the book, skips church to hunt down monsters for the Vatican in heels. So I'd actually correct his ad. He's got two full stops or 2 periods there. I think he needs 3. Now that's how pedantic I can be when it gets to advertising. So if you want an ellipsis, you want to have 3 there. But anyway, that's and then beneath that we've got Unchained, Feathers and Fire Book 1, and then he's got his own kind of personalized he's got the display link which is hidden. That the actual link would be going straight to his Amazon page, but he's cloaked the link with what you call a display URL, which says amazon.com/literary crack. So again, suggesting that it would be addictive. Again, another nice, slightly irreverent. You wouldn't see that in a normal ad from a trad house. It's just kind of setting out that this is the kind of tone and content you're going to get if you dig into this book. So all 3 of those cut from the same cloth. Strong images, short, punchy copy, direct and to the point, telling you all you need to know before you go over to Amazon and hopefully make that purchase.
Okay. Now, as we said at the beginning, the Facebook ads platform is complicated. There's a quick and easy way to lose money if you don't get it right. So don't just dive in necessarily. And these interviews have not been, designed to get you started really on Facebook ads. They're to give you an overview of the platform and talk about the potential of them. And it was great to hear Shayne talking about some of the retargeting and then some of the techniques he used to give you an idea of what's available to you. If you do want to dive in on the course or have a look at the course, you can go to selfpublishingformula.com/ads for authors. It's open for 3 weeks from today, Wednesday, the day this is being released, which is the 5th of July.
At 10 p.m. UK time. So as this goes out, it may not be open, but it will be open within a few hours later this evening.
And if you're not sure, of course, we do run this 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can have a look at the course, and then if you don't think it's the right time for you, or for whatever reason, get your money back during that time. And I kind of say that partly because we've got a course to sell, and we want, obviously, to tell people about that, partly just to say, just don't necessarily start your Facebook ads campaign tomorrow and start putting money in there and expect to replicate what Shayne's doing straight away. It does take a build up. It does take some knowledge, and try and learn from the people around you in this wonderful indie community we have. Okay, so that's Facebook ads. So now it is interesting to say that a couple of years ago, when you and I started talking about this stuff together, you started talking to me about it. Facebook ads was number one without question for you. It was the driving force behind your growth as an indie author and your income. Today, it's not necessarily number one, is it?
It depends where you're talking about. So in the US and the UK, I'd say my spend is about 70-30 in with regards to Amazon ads and Facebook ads, maybe even 80-20. Facebook ads are still really powerful. Amazon ads are perhaps a little bit more powerful. And they do different things. Facebook is amazing for finding readers, getting onto a mailing list, building a list quickly of qualified readers is it's still very, very good at that, best in the world at doing that. Actually selling books, it works really well, but it's probably Amazon is where you'd want to be focusing in those two markets. Now, if you're looking to other markets, and we'll get into this on Friday when we look at my German launch, Facebook is beating Amazon hands down right now. So most of my spend is just looking at the numbers I put together. I'm spending twice as much most months on Facebook ads over in Germany, and you can see, and we'll demonstrate this with some screen grabs on Friday. You can see when I switch Facebook ads on, because the effect on sales, I'm just looking at it now, I switched some ads on the 24th of May. The next day, German sales tripled. So there was nothing else that could have done that. It was the Facebook ads. So, it depends. They're both very important, and I think authors need to master both of them.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Now, there's another third platform that we haven't mentioned too much today, but we are going to talk about tomorrow, and that is BookBub ads. So the BookBub mailing list, which is a reader-centric mailing list, huge mailing list, and they introduce this opportunity for you, not just to try and win a featured deal with them, but to place your ad in those emails that go out. And we're going to talk to Dave Cochran, who's written the book on the subject, tomorrow. So that's it for today. Thank you very much indeed, Mark. We're going to appear tomorrow wearing the same clothes and looking very much the same, because we're doing a little bit of batch recording today, but it is only the week before. It's the Fridays. It's only a few days before this is going out, so it's all very contemporary. So we're going to say goodbye for this episode, and we look forward to speaking to you tomorrow.
Goodbye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishing show. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with the Self-Publishing Show.